Hi guys, it's time to level up. This is Prateek,
This is Mukesh.
and we want to welcome Rohit Jagasia. He's the owner of Revenant Esports. Welcome, Rohit.
Welcome,
Hi
Rohit.
guys,
How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good.
Awesome. So
Just a little nervous in front of the camera, but
cool. So guys, this podcast is all about everybody would know about the players and lots of things happening in the esports world, especially the Indian ecosystem. We want to bring in those personalities who actually make key decisions in this ecosystem, who we call as the key opinion leaders, who are the ones who are behind the scenes running this ecosystem. And we also want to get that perspective, which is not available out there, around business, about the future of Indian esports, how much bullish they are, and what are the different changes going to come here. So, really happy to have you, Rohit, and looking forward to an amazing conversation.
same here.
Cool. So, I think we should start with his journey.
Yeah. Tell us about how you got involved, how you got into esports. Was gaming something that came natural to you while you were growing up? How did you kind of started this journey?
Yeah, so I used to like all throughout school, college. I've been a Game Boy Advance SP guy. From that, I played a lot of console games. I played a lot of FIFA, and then I went to Singapore. I studied there. I was working in Singapore for a bit.
Okay.
After that, I came back and I was working in our family business, which is into infrastructure, and it's been there for 3 decades. And I was, working on a site somewhere in Gujarat. So my travel used to be very hectic, and all throughout my life, I've also been playing this game called Old School RuneScape, which goes on to, like I still play it. I've been playing it since I was, I think, 12. And so the travel was a lot at that point of time, and then COVID struck. And during COVID, I obviously didn't have to travel a lot, and I was more at home. And that's when I thought, why not get into esports, because of my profound love towards gaming, and I also followed the whole CS:GO scene back in the day. And post that, I thought, there is an opportunity in India also that you should that I should do something about. And we've been one of the only organizations that's built from the ground up through Call of Duty and not any other title. So that's how I started.
Absolutely. So, I mean, so if it says 2016-17, you finished your MBA, then you obviously were working.
I was working
with your-
so I was working actually at a digital marketing agency also for a bit, and
Okay.
then so I was working in Singapore in a
Yeah.
SAP partnered company
Okay.
just after MBA,
Okay,
and then I came back.
understood.
And after coming back, I worked for a bit in the digital marketing space, because at that time Instagram was just growing, and I wanted to learn that side of thing. I wanted to learn SEO and all of that, and somehow implement it in the businesses that we do as our family. And post that,
Yeah, so I
COVID
think
came.
2020 is the time you started, or
2021.
okay, the second wave in between that. Kind
Yeah,
of,
I was working behind the scenes since 2020.
okay.
Like, we started with Call of Duty. We used to do we used to do a couple of mini IPs. Then we picked up a Call of Duty team, and that team actually made it to the World Championships. And just out of from the prize pools, we made like $50,000 at that point of
Okay.
time.
That's huge.
And that was like a solid enough proof of concept, where I was like, there is money to be made here. And post that, BGMI was on the verge of coming back, and we picked up one of the most celebrated rosters in the country, which called the Megastars roster, with Encore, Paradox, Austin, and Top Dog. We started working with them, and we were a mobile first esports organization, and it eventually changed now that we've got into PCA esports as well.
So obviously, while choosing this as a profession for a lot of players, there's still a stigma. There is a lot of pressure from the family of not necessarily choosing esports as a career. How difficult was for you to come out of a family business which was completely away and completely in a different industry altogether. How difficult was you to manage that family dynamics, considering you belong to a business family?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because the business was so successful. It's been there for 3 decades. It's huge.
So it was not very hard it was not very hard because when I started Revenant, obviously we were still building, and I used to work with my dad at that time. So my elder brother has been taking care of the business in Dubai, and post that, I think I think my parents have been very supportive, and they also understood that my calling was from more of a competitive and a creative sort of a field. I like building brands. I like I like building holistic companies, and that's what Revenant is. Revenant has been more about a holistic esports company.
Sure.
And again, by when I mean that, I like to my focus has mainly been on the competitive side of things. We've never really gone out and got a creator.
God. I
think which brings to an important point, wherein we have seen in the fraternity, we have seen with the team owners and with maybe established teams where they take a different approach while creating a esports team, wherein they have content creators on the roster and they have esports rosters in different games. Why did you choose not to go down or rather not to have a content creator roster at all, or not focus on content creation as much? While I understand competitive side of things is something which comes as a passion point for you, as you rightly said, but considering why content creation is still the center stage for a lot of brands and a lot of esports teams globally who have done it the right way, using content creators more so.
Yeah, so it's not like I don't want to get creators ever on board. If I do plan to get a creator on board, I mean, I want to get a marquee name, not like a creator who would I just get someone for the sake of it. And moreover, I don't think I don't understand the creator business very well yet. I've been reading about it. I think there's still a lot of, there are talent management agencies, there are teams. I think all that is still getting sorted in India, so we are not a talent management agency. When a talent management agency picks up a creator, they don't really have to increase their OPEX, they don't have to really pay the creator as such. But when a team or an organization really gets into the whole picture, you have to offer an MG, you have to offer a salary, and then even get your whole sales team to start getting them deals to start profit from there. So I believe, could rather do it with teams itself. And I think once I get this whole portion of the business sorted, and that's when I can start focusing on getting a creator or someone on board. But something that we'll be doing at Revenant going forward is we're going to start building a lot of content IPs.
Great.
Where we'll start using our athletes as creators until we actually go out and get a marquee name on board.
Understood.
In the creator space.
Understood. In fact, I have one question, because let's backtrack a bit. So when you started Revenant, what was your long-term vision for Revenant, and especially what are those key principles? Because you told about you like brand building is something you're passionate about, right? So I think that's why you want to create an organization. And when you thought about this particular organization, what was the principles you had, or probably what do you want people to think when they think about Revenant ultimately?
Yeah, so I wanted to be an aspirational competitive esports team, and with a holistic approach where we focus a lot on diversification in the competitive side of things. We've been the only roster to have teams in Pokemon. I think we were the first team ever to pick up a Pokemon roster. We have a roster in Brawl Stars, so we are looking at an approach what SK Gaming also does to build a whole non-violent vertical. Obviously, BGMI is something that we were very bullish about, but after the game was pulled off from the App Store and the Play Store, it diversification helped me in that way that just after the game was pulled off, our Pokemon team was made it to London,
correct?
For the World Championship, and we've done it twice in Pokemon now. Been regional champions twice in the 2 events that mattered. So yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, we want to be a competitive esports team with a global. We want to have a global presence. But again, step by step. I don't want to, be, just like put all my eggs also in the same basket, because like, I mean, diversification is good. Also from a game point of view, but it's also necessary from the demographic point of view and the geographic point of view. So global is something that we want to do, but we want to be known more as an esports team rather than a content creator team, because I think we already have the best content creator group in the country, right?
Sure.
SATL. So
Yeah,
Fair.
go on that.
they're obviously one of the best. So, but yeah, I think also community which comes with the team is different, because I think it's aspirational. Esports is something which lots of it's a team, right? It's like, let's say whatever IPL, there are multiple teams, which people, Mumbai Indians or CSK or India as a team. The emotion associated with the team is totally different from a creator. I mean, creator, the community is different, and I totally get the whole aspect being going behind teams. But what do you think about this whole kind of uncertainty with respect to the games which is happening in the ecosystem? Because obviously some policies and some different changes. How do you see it as an owner? Because I mean, you are the one who's getting the first-hand effect of different changes happening in the ecosystem.
Yeah, I think as an entrepreneur, I mean, I think what I've learned even at my family business is your business should be indispensable regardless of one probably client or one game in this case or whatever. For example, right after BGMI was pulled off, we announced our deal with Puma. We announced our deal with Saibart. So I mean, obviously it's had a big void on the whole ecosystem altogether. But at the end of the day, probably whatever the government did, I think it was also in the best case for the country or whatever. Like, I mean, I don't want to really comment on that, but I feel that as an entrepreneur, I have to build a solid sort of a company that is not dependent on one client, one game, or one geography altogether. And that's the reason why I've always been the guy who's been speaking a lot about diversification. But it does affect the whole ecosystem, but I think everyone should take measures in
Absolutely.
diversifying their risk.
Sure. No, makes sense. Since you spoke about brands, coming from traditional sports, I've seen a lot of marketing dollars spent towards the likes of cricket, football, cricket. Obviously, we're a cricket crazy nation. When it comes to esports, it's a no-brainer for the endemic brands to be part of it. You have the likes of AMD, Cyber coming into the picture now. Puma was obviously one of the we were one of the first guys to actually get a kit manufacturer to come on board from traditional sports side of things. How difficult is for you to do that outreach in the market, and maybe not chase might be a stronger word for it, but go after the non-endemic brands and making them understand what this whole ecosystem is all about?
Yeah, so when we started off, it was really hard. I mean, Puma was still, a little doable, but when we did a campaign for ICICI Securities, which was a completely sort of a different brand, and, like getting into esports, that was a very big challenge that we had, but we somehow pulled it off. But I think, I mean, not only non-endemic brands, but even endemic brands, it is difficult, to get them on, on board. But when like I was saying, when you've built a solid structure around your company and when you've made yourself relevant in the whole ecosystem, I think if things have to happen, they happen. Like, for example, with FanClash, we had inbound interest.
Sure.
With the couple of streaming platforms that we worked with, we had inbound interest. So I think it's two-way. Some brands are just aspirational that you have to chase and you want to work with them. But I mean, it's difficult, but it's not impossible.
Absolutely. I mean, stitching those partnerships is also very difficult, right?
Sorry?
Stitching that partnership, especially what we have seen is when we have been we have been stitching certain partnerships, and we see that especially non-endemic and all. I think, is there anything you did different, or probably because there'll be a lot of other owners and other team folks who are behind multiple teams. Is there anything?
Yeah, I think Puma would be the best example to come out of this, right?
Yeah.
What would have been the thought process when you went to a brand like Puma? Because the business is really doing well in India. Recently, they announced that they're one of the top retailers now in the country, coming out ahead by a mile of Nike, Adidas, who have been serving
absolutely.
the market for a long time now. What was that conversation like? And I know you have few friends on the brand side of things which would have held the process, but at the end of the
Yeah,
day,
I mean, I had friends in the agency side of things who had worked with Puma. Apart from that, one of the competing brands, one of the other bigger sporting brands is something that we were about to sign with, but due to a global approval and all of that, it fell short. So at that point in time, I had learned the journey on, what should you actually, say to a kitting brand, when you want to actually have them on your kit, and, you want them to be doing your kits and stuff. So it was not really hard, but yeah, it was a little time consuming to close, because I have never really seen the compliances that I had to see with the Puma. With the other brands, it was much easier from a compliance point of view, from all the statutory mandatory compliances they had, much easier. But with Puma, it was a little difficult. But again, I think whenever trying to get a whole aspirational brand, it always gets hard. But yeah, it was not very, very difficult, because what we actually did was we tried to make the brand understand that esports viewership has been going up. India is the second largest smartphone market in the world. Mobile data plans, thanks to Jio, has been the cheapest. The penetration to esports content has been really high in our country, and it is only here to stay and grow. And we also had a very good case study with BGMS, because our BGMI team had played on Star Sports.
right.
So I think everything eventually did work out, in our favor, where they saw the depth in the whole ecosystem. And it's not only us, it's not only me or my team who actually went all out to get Puma, but it was a whole collaborative effort of all the other stakeholders also in the ecosystem. Like, for example, Nordwin Gaming. Whoever thought that esports would get a 8 p.m. primetime slot on Star Sports?
Absolutely.
And
how much time did it take for you to stitch that partnership? Because usually months or weeks or.
I think once we started speaking with the brand, it took around 2 to 3 weeks. But I think getting to the point to speaking with the decision maker in the brand took a while, for 6 months maybe.
Yeah. And one thing I have about Revenant is completely agnostic to game, right? Because a lot of people I have seen, they are amazing teams out there, but they usually rally behind a single sport or a couple of sports. With Revenant, I've always seen one thing I have personally kind of observed is, when you get into one sport, you're agnostic. First of all, you don't say that this is the only key sport for us. You get into that. When you get into that, you create one of the key teams very strategically, and you also get a lot of love for that team. Irrespective of any esport you get into, the approach, even when I talk to your, usually the vision, whatever you share, is mostly agnostic to a particular game. So how do you crack it? Because you get into esport, Valorant, right? Like I saw it first time. Valorant. Yeah.
So just adding to this, since you mentioned, right, staying ahead of the curve with the BGMI ban, not maybe everyone wants the game to come back without a doubt, right? But still capitalizing on the popularity of Revenant as a brand, trying to spread into the other games which might not have a significant presence in India but has a decent roadmap. Like, for example, Pokemon boys went to Malaysia, they played in KL. Supercell, they're gonna go to Japan, right? how do you Codem? You've been active. You have had an active roster in Codem. How do you look at some of these titles while trying to get a roster in that? Because most of these games, unlike BGMI or Free Fire at its time, they are not that popular in India. From both participation and audience who's gonna watch it. What do you think about when you're trying to shortlist such games?
So I mean, say for example with Brawl Stars, our team when they played the ESL right now, they won ESL India. Now they've been going to Japan. They won two monthly finals run by the publisher. So I mean, it was like a no-brainer because that team was anyway active in the scene and they were anyway winning everything. And I think when we spoke to the team, it made sense for us as a brand, and I think for the team to basically for us to partner together. But yeah, I mean with like I mean there is no really there's with the whole roadmap and stuff. When we are looking to get into the game, obviously the publisher roadmap and everything is very important. But India as a region, I mean, we have Valorant in India, we have BGMI in India. Whenever it comes back, that will keep the relevance of the organization growing. But tomorrow, when I'm going to play, say, the ESL, I become relevant in in the non violent category.
Sure.
When I'm playing against an SK Gaming in Japan. For example, with Apex Legends, we had an Indonesian team. The Indonesian team actually made it to ALGS from this whole sort of the whole APAC circuit.
Right.
And we were the only Indian organization to compete against the likes of G2, TSM, Liquid, Cloud9. I mean, this was, I think, a year ago. So, I mean, I look at it in a way that, relevance should be there, in India also. But at the end of the day, like at the beginning of our conversation, I said, going global is something that I really want to do in the future. So I generally look at it in a more sort of a broader perspective, not only restricting my whole
Sure.
into India.
Sure. I also feel that, and it's my personal view, wherein for games to become as big as a BGMI or a Free Fire, there has to be active interest, active money is pumped in by the publishers to ensure they work closely with the top creators in the country, the top teams in the country, the top athletes in the country, and you nurture the ecosystem together. When you talk about the other games that you've selected and you've fielded the roster, I'm not too sure if most of these publishers have pumped that kind of money and effort in the market. Obviously, the roadmap is there, but then imagine for a good 6 to 8 months, being a smartphone first market, we didn't have number one, number two games in the country. Was there a number three game that would have come and taken over? Maybe yes. Maybe Electronic Arts, which should have done that with Apex Legend. What do you think is limiting the publishers to kind of come here and do and maybe become as big as a BGMI or Unearth or put the next BGMI out there for the
So I
public?
think BGMI and Free Fire, though also a very big reason of it getting popular also was because they worked with mom and pop phones also.
Sure.
I had like a device that at 10K the games play
Correct.
well. Whereas when you see Call of Duty Mobile, I still remember in Call of Duty Mobile, it was the only game that or at least didn't use iPhones. They either played on iPads until the publisher actually stopped letting us compete with iPads, and then they started playing on Asus ROG phones. So because the frame, the FPS was much higher on Asus, and there were a couple of other factors in Call of Duty as to why it didn't grow. Obviously, I think the publisher also, I don't know. I mean, the publisher didn't really have too much of an involvement in India. So a publisher, but Activision in general has been, the whole roadmap for the game is pretty solid. But yeah, I think, like you rightly said, it also depends on the publisher, but it also depends on the ecosystem, like the other TOs also. Like, for example, Sky Esports now, when Pokemon did come in and Pokemon started picking up, and with the number of tournaments Sky has been doing, it has become one of the most favorite MOBA titles in the country.
Sure.
So not only from the publishers, but I think a publisher also should have some sort of a stakeholder from a tournament organizer point of view to
Who
actually
understands the
help
market, who's there locally
Yeah.
to build, sure.
to help build the game in the country.
Do you think Apex Legends could have done that and captured the market had they created that effort in sync with the local people here?
Not really sure. Like, I mean, I think, firstly, I think for a game to do well in an esports POV, the game has to be esports ready. So some games also have, their own bugs, their own flaws, and, penetration again, like through whether it works on a 10,000 rupee smartphone, close, like, in terms of performance, is it close to a
Sure.
60,000 rupee per smartphone also. So I think all those factors also really, we as Revenant, we never really looked at Apex Legends Mobile as a game that we wanted to invest in because again, we never spoken to the publisher, nor had we seen too much effort from key tournament organizers to do tournaments in Apex Legends. So that was something that we didn't really look at, but obviously I think any game that is in the battle royale sort of a genre is coming to India and it's marketed right people are playing, like the big creators and everyone are playing the game, big teams are getting involved, obviously like it will pick up. Like for example, we picked up the Brawl Stars team right now. After that we had a couple of other teams, our competing teams also, who picked up roster. So I think it's like, I mean, you just need that someone to take the first step, and I don't like to take it all the time.
That's true.
Well said.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just wanted to talk about the unit economics, right? Like, for example, what's the unit economics behind running a team, starting it? Because if I have to divide this market, obviously there are top tier teams like which are competing with you, right? There are a few of them, right? And then there are small teams like these guys who obviously want to come and become big, like they are playing, in scrims and so on, and then obviously getting their place, right? So what it takes for somebody to start and run an organization, obviously what kind of initial investment or it requires, and what kind of, or how they can mitigate risk, or probably how they can sail through and be there. Because what is the future for organizations in India, especially esports organizations?
I mean, I can answer for myself, but not for other organizations. But risk mitigation for me is, like I said, diversification. But apart from the unit economics, in terms of the budget, everyone have different aspirations. Some people want to do well only in India. Some people want to leave a mark globally. So I think the budget and everything also depends on, how do you want to build a team. I mean, you can build a Valorant team for free as well,
Sure.
who will play for you, and you can build a Valorant team like where you get players from Fnatic and you get players from 100 Thieves, and you get them to play in the region. So I think, I mean, that your question is very sort of, I mean, I don't know how to say it, but I think your question is, I think it'll be different from a person
From
to
individuals to
person.
individuals, sure.
But the thing is, talking about the small guys, right? What do you want to tell them? Because if, let's say, I am aspirational, I am a avid esports fan, I'm having a small team which I'm kind of managing. There are lots of these guys we come across, because I think they will also be pinging you and asking you for in Twitter, spamming you.
Yes,
and so
I'm
on.
sure there are who play in scrims. There will be pro-am teams.
Yeah, and these guys have aspirations to
Sure.
become big. Like,
Sure.
I mean, those are non-sponsored teams, you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, play well, and if you get to the tier 1 scene and you're playing very well, we might probably pick you up. But in terms of small organizations, I don't know, because I've not been in that situation.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah,
No fair. No fair. Given that we are a smartphone first market, CS:GO scene is now kind of, from the chatters we have heard from our dear friends, it's gonna come back. People are rooting behind it, and CS:GO 2 also announced, and it taking place maybe globally, with Blast leading the way, when they're gonna change the entire ecosystem and move to CS:GO 2, which Valve has also announced. What do you think will take shape in India when CS:GO was not there? there was no Valorant. When Valorant came, it kind of came in a big way. People started playing, people loved it. It gave a different feel, a new age game with a lot of cool graphics, new maps, new agents. To me, it was a very different game to CS:GO,
Yeah.
and the competitive structure is also kind of now really built well into the country. What do you think will happen to PC gaming in general in India if, let's say, BGMI comes back and that kind of takes center stage?
I think everything in best case scenario should coexist. Uh, Valorant currently is doing very well in the country. With CS:GO, I think it's the most watched PC title in the world.
Yeah,
One of the most watched PC titles in the world. Currently, again, CS:GO has seen like a big spike in the current user base right now after the CS2 announcement, probably because of the nostalgia that people
Sure.
will have, And I think, with Valorant and Counter-Strike, I think both the audiences are a little different. I think Counter-Strike comes more from that whole sort of community, from that whole cafe culture. Valorant is, Valorant has been ex-CS Go athletes and, people who have, people who've seen their favorite streamer play Valorant and just downloaded the game and has been grinding the game casually. So I think both of them will coexist. But I mean, I think obviously, since it's a mobile first market, no one can touch our
Sure.
favorite game.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think that's my point of view. But in best case scenario, I wish all the games, coexist.
What do you think is currently missing in the ecosystem for it to really boom? Because today we've not seen it, at least in the country where uh, a tournament is hosted and we have a stadium full of people. And I think we are some time away from that. With the uncertainty, with the interference from,
It's like a couple of breaks.
yeah, like every 6 months there is a hurdle. What do you think is actually limiting the sudden growth boom that we saw in pandemic? Post-pandemic, things have kind of changed. Where do you
I
think it's
think,
headed?
even cricket was like that until 83 happened and we won the
Sure.
World Cup.
Mhm.
So I think esports just needs that 83 moment in some title or the other. And I think all the other organizations also, like, Velocity, Global Esports, everyone are, putting their whole effort to, probably get that whole 83 moment to the country. And, I think that will actually drive a lot of, I think that will drive a lot of, people to come and, start believing that esports is legitimate, because I think people still have that, it's still, people have that whole gray area in their mind about esports. So I think, like any traditional sport, I think we just need that one big 83 moment, and it will really shape the future. And obviously, it'd be great if the market was not as volatile as it is right now. And I think if a couple of things like this stabilize, life will become much easier.
So what do you think the timeline will be like according to you? It's an approximation. How many years from now do you see that happening? Like that
I have no clue. I mean, maybe next month when we go to Japan and we win Brawl Stars.
Yeah, we can hope for the best. Yeah.
Absolutely. Makes sense.
You have traveled a lot. I'm sure you would have seen a lot of global teams, seen their skill sets. With obviously the import culture, it's there in the country right now for obvious reasons. There is, I don't think anyone can shy away from saying that. There is a skill gap. Uh, how do you think that can be changed, and how do you think can we start actually exporting and creating heroes, truly players from India where global teams take notice of. Like for example, when Global played and Espirosi was invited to play as part of the VCT, and he was there in that showdown match. People liked his skills and people loved him. But that's one in a million. What is lacking? Obviously, PC gaming. I understand it's not something which can happen. Can go to different parts of the country so easily, but with smartphone, with mobile gaming, I'm not too sure where are we in terms of creating that grassroots program or grassroots culture within the gaming world in India currently.
So I think, I mean, yeah, I mean, with a skill gap point of view, yeah, maybe I don't know whether mechanically, just on mechanical skill, whether there is a very big sort of a skill gap or not. Because I mean, if I have to do a whole apple to apple comparison in our Valorant team, I think we have this player called Paradox in our Valorant team who's mechanically very, very well skilled. Any game that you actually put him in front of, he'll do very well in that game. So maybe from a exposure and experience point of view is something that we are lacking, where we have not got a lot of playtime against,
Bigger teams,
international teams. Like for example, I'll just give you with Call of Duty, in the World Cup that we qualified for, it was supposed to be an offline event in somewhere in the US. But because of the COVID scene, we were not, able to travel. And since Sony was sponsoring that whole World Cup for Activision, Sony doesn't really have a mobile phone market in India. Our players were made to play on iPhones, which cap at 60 FPS, and a Sony phone would cap at 120
Xperia, they are the
FPS.
Xperia for internet.
Would cap at 120 FPS. And plus, we were playing at a ping disadvantage also, because it was not a LAN event.
Sure.
So I mean, there's been insistence there's been instances like that also, where we've not really had like a fair sort of a level playing field, where we could have done better. So I think eventually, I mean, things will get better, when I think we get enough playtime against international teams. And I mean, I think that should happen soon. But yeah, I don't know from a skill gap point of view if it's a very big difference.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I think teams should start investing in support staff also. Like, it is very important to have like a coach, because the esports club had done a tournament, and we were probably the youngest and the only Valorant team who had the most successful journey against SCA teams. I think against the likes of Zoxia, we beat them. In the Penta Pro Series, we got a map against Bleed. We had beaten Fancy United, one of the best Vietnamese team in the TEC Valorant tournament. So that, I mean, with that I can prove the point that there's not a very big skill gap, but yeah, it's not level playing yet. I think eventually when things do get level playing, and while we won all these events in TEC, we had an all 5-man Indian roster. It was without Ching and Josh.
Oh,
Okay,
interesting.
Yeah.
that's great.
So I think either there are exposure trips as team owners you are able to organize to try and give them that advantage, or give them that experience and exposure, or maybe TOs make an active effort to bring down some of the bigger names in the country.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
One thing I was like, let's say, assuming the case that BGMI comes back, do you think it will be like where it left? It is the same way how it will start here in terms of traction it will get, and also what shape and form it might come. Like, what is your speculation on that? Like, what do you think will happen in the ecosystem?
I don't know. I mean, I can't comment on what shape and form it will come in. I mean, but I think the two times when it did exist in the ecosystem, it didn't start with at its peak. The audience helped the publisher build it, the TOs helped the publisher build it, and the teams also participated in it actively. there were the investments in the scene were high. There was both the big streaming platforms coming in, getting teams to come and stream on their platform to create content. So it's obviously not going to start at where it left, but eventually I think it will get there.
What are the different areas that you've been able to crack in terms of monetization currently?
So we'll have a hospitality partner soon. I think it'll be the first Indian esports team to have like a proper hospitality partner. We have a gaming chair partner in that whole category. We have a peripheral partner with Corsair. Again, our title partner is AMD. So I think the monetization opportunities in esports are like any other sports team. We have a Web3 partner as well. Indie GG.
Yeah.
So, I think an esports team has as many opportunities as a traditional sports team. We've tried and cracked a couple of them. Obviously, sponsorships is one route. We did last year we did what do you call it? We did like a whole masterclass on social swag, which was, where we actually did a whole masterclass with Encore and Paradox on mobile gaming. And, how do you play mobile games?
Sure.
Just from the basics. So that was another very big monetization opportunity for us. As and when we get campaigns, stories and all of that, we keep doing those, which are a couple of other monetization opportunities. And obviously, now that we'll start building content IPs, packaging some good content together and getting, brands and, our partners to probably help us produce the IP.
Sure.
That is another monetization opportunity. And I've seen a couple of teams even doing invitational tournaments where they again monetize. We also had a very big IP in mind, but the game was pulled off. That is something that we wanted to do. So I think monetization in the whole ecosystem is not hard. It can probably get better if I start understanding the content creator business well, which I'm working on right now. But from a team point of view, it's exactly like a sports team.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, perfect.
At the intersection of entertainment, at the intersection of maybe pop culture, music, what do you think are the opportunities? And this is where I have seen there is vested interest coming up from a lot of traditional sports franchisees where they have started looking at esports and gaming in a big way. Amalgamation and cross promotion between sports and esports.
Yeah.
A, what do you think about it? B, are you taking any active interest and steps to ensure you're able to crack that?
So I won't lie. I mean, we've been approached by sports teams as well. I think it's still a very nascent conversation, but cricket viewership in the country has been going down. We are a growing population.
Sure.
Esports viewership has been going up. Like, again, just going back to my whole point, 8 p.m. primetime slot, Star Sports.
It's a big thing.
Plus the relevance of the audience, the younger children right now, rather than watching cricket, they like to watch their streamer or their team play a tournament.
Absolutely.
So I feel, it'll be a good cross-pollination of audience. I think bigger franchise teams will be able to build brand advocates early. They'll be able to, catch them early and then eventually take them to that whole sentiment from an esports team to be supporting a cricket team. So I think it is very good for a sports team to actually build their entire, that whole growing fan base from esports and actually coexist in cricket as well and, in the virtual capacity as well.
Yeah.
So, and I think more than all of that, like now recently we've seen IPL teams even investing in, the South Africa picking up teams, even in women's IPL. But the relevance of these tournaments are like probably 3 months in a year. But when you see esports, we are relevant 365 days.
Correct.
And that's something that a proper sports team doesn't really get. So I feel, partnering up with the esports team really helps them get relevance. It really helps them build brand advocates who are just starting out at one phase in life, whether, they are making their career choices and, watching game. Then esports is, I think, a bigger spectator sport than, I think, other traditional sports like uh, maybe golf or UEFA Champions League, as a matter of fact, in India. So, yeah, I think it's a great space for any sports team to actually get into esports at this point in time. And I think it'll only get better with time.
Sure.
Perfect. Yeah, I think before we wrap it up, one last question is like, what do you have for your Revenant family? What do you want to tell them? Because it's like a lot of upcoming things you might have, and your message to them.
I mean, I don't really have a message as such because I can't really give out all the announcements and everything that we are going to be making. But we are coming up with a lot of fan engagement activities on our website where fans can come engage with our audiences, win a lot of prizes. We are going to go down the content creator route. You'll see us global. You'll see us field a CS2 roster also in the future. So we're going to do a lot of stuff, and then obviously, with keeping the whole competitive sort of approach in hand, and I mean, probably if things go right, you'll see us back in Valorant also in the South Asian scene.
Interesting.
It's going to be amazing. I mean, the Revenant family should be looking forward to it because with saying nothing up, you gave a lot of information that so much thing to look forward
I
for
think your fans on Twitter,
Yeah.
got a screenshot.
Finger might
Start
be-
farming.
yeah.
Start farming. Start guessing what all is coming up.
Spam them because we want some information from you.
But yeah, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for
thank
having
you.
me.
Thanks a
And-
lot, Rohit.
And best wishes to Revenant. Hopefully, you are able to achieve much more and beyond. May Japan trip be successful for you and your team. And yeah, 2023, exciting stuff lined up.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah, cheers.